Hi everyone and welcome. My name is Hoffmann, and in today's lesson it's all about designing your own grooves. With one simple example you can understand the step-by-step groove evolution from this into this. It all starts with a rhythmic melody that we can sing in our head or sing out loud while we are walking down the street. Bap to bap, da ga da da da, ba da bap, bap bap bap, da bap 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 bap, bap da da ba da. And all of this is part of our rhythmic vocabulary, like our speaking vocabulary when we're having a conversation. And the example that we are using today is in 16th notes, and it sounds like this. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a ba ba da ba 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 da ba ba ba. And now we split up this rhythm between bass drum and snare drum, and we play beats 2 and 4 on the snare drum because, as you might know, this is the most common placement for playing backbeats. The instrument that is missing now is the hi-hat, because bass drum, snare drum and hi-hat are the important instruments when we want to play grooves. So the next step is to add a hi-hat ostinato on top of our bass drum and snare drum melody. It can be any ostinato, for example, just 8th notes or 16th notes. I chose a mixture of both. 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1. And to make this groove roll a bit more, we can add ghost notes. And they can make grooves sound much more interesting and appealing. They are played at a much softer volume than our accents on 2 and 4. And of course you can add any ghost note pattern that you want, either filling up the spaces that are not being played by hi-hat and bass drum, or you can stack grooves by playing ghost notes with the hi-hat or the bass drum at the same time. My example is again a mixture of both. So let's listen to what the hands are playing first. 1, 2, 3, 4. And now adding the bass drum to this hand pattern, the groove sounds like this. Instead of playing a repetitive hi-hat figure, we can also break up the ostinato and make the hi-hat figure more syncopated. I chose one of my favorite paradiddle variations, but of course you can take any other sticking and that will sound just as cool. So let's take a listen what the hands are playing. And now again, adding the bass drum, the groove sounds like this. adding dynamics can be done not only with your internal dynamic mix between bass drum, snare drum and hi-hat, but also within one instrument, meaning which notes are played loud and which notes are played soft. And out of all these instruments, the hi-hat is often underrated as one of the most dynamic instruments. And a cool sounding dynamic shape I often like to apply is to accent every note and to accent every second note of a 2/16th note grouping. So let me show you what I mean by this. And now adding the bass drum and snare drum with the hi-hat, the groove sounds like this. And we can add texture by changing the orchestration. And in this step, my suggestion is to play the rim of your tom instead of the hi-hat and play the ghost notes on the hi-hat instead of the snare drum. And this gives the groove a whole new meaning and a total different soundscape. So let's take a listen. And in this step we add ornamentations by diddling the hi-hat on the R of beat 4. And diddling means to play a note at its doubled rate of speed with the same hand. And we also change two more things. A ghost note becomes a hi-hat accent on the E of beat 1, and we play an open hi-hat on the E of beat 3. And here is a preliminary exercise with hands only. And as we diddle the hi-hat, we can also diddle the bass drum. And that's what we do on the R of beat 1. So here we go. The last and final step is to be able to improvise inside this groove environment. An advice to be creative is to limit your variations. For instance, only play variations with your hands or only play variations in the bass drum while keeping the hand pattern. And these are the 10 levels of designing your own grooves. But it doesn't mean you stop exploring a rhythmic idea. Maybe you can expand this list. Maybe there's one step missing that I have skipped, but that is maybe important to you. So these levels are intended to give you an overview of elements you can add or remove for your musical needs and especially your personal musical taste. And level 9 isn't any cooler than level 2. The grooves just get more and more complex in the levels. And when you are aware of the things that add complexity, then less can be more, because you know what more is. And that's what I hope you get out of this lesson. Thank you for watching, everyone. Take care, and I'll see you next time.